Hello guys, welcome back to the Flask channel. So today we're gonna be discussing about list. So list is part of the collections data type. So what is a list? So a list is basically just an array, just like any other languages. And you can use arrays on primitives such as int, long, boolean, string, as objects for Salesforce standard and custom objects, and any other user-defined objects, objects created from Apex classes or collections. We'll discuss the most common list methods. For the full reference, you can just visit this link. I'll just include it in the description. So we will discuss the common ones. So this one is basically the add list element method. So basically adds an element to the list. So the keyword here is, of course, add. Next is insert. I call this one insert, but it's just basically the add method with an index and the actual list element that you are putting inside that index. Next one is add all. So you can actually use this with a set and with a list and a set. So what this does is it copies all the elements. So adds all of the elements in the specified list or set to the list that calls the method. So both lists must be, or set must be of the same type. Next is get. Again, here the keyword is, of course, get. So returns the list element stored at a specific index. Yep. So basically, it's just, grabs the desired index that you put here. Next is set. For this one, the keyword is update. So set, or rather sets the specified value for the element at the given index. So just think of this one as an update. So the parameters are, you have to put the index and the value that you wanted for this specific list. Next is contains. So this one finds the actual list element that you've put in as an argument. And then if it finds it, it returns true. Otherwise, it returns false. Okay, next is index of. So this one, instead of returning the value, it returns the index. So, yep. So what if there's a duplicate value on your list? So it says here, returns the index of the first occurrence of the specified element in the list. So it will just return the first one and informs you the actual index. But if there's several, it will only give you one. It will just tell you that, hey, this particular element is available on this particular index. So if this list does not contain the element, it returns -1. So meaning, if you got a -1 here, it means that it wasn't able to find that specific list. All right. Next is size. So this one just basically tells you the size of your list. It doesn't have any parameter, of course. This one is a basic sort, so it's only able to sort in ascending order. Next one is remove. So only this an index. So it deletes the actual element based on the given indexed index. Whatever you provide here, it's gonna be deleting that one. Next is clear. So clear is delete, so it removes everything. Okay. And then is empty, so returns true if the list has zero elements. So it's just a sort of a checker. And then there are a couple more here that are sort of, excuse me, like an advanced topic. So this one is clone and deep clone. So clone, it makes a duplicate copy of a list, but it does much more. You'll see later. We're gonna be excuse me. We're gonna be discussing it in detail. And then the next one is deep clone. So for deep clone in list method, it has three arguments: the preserve ID, preserve read-only timestamps, and preserve auto number. We'll discuss this one in depth. And what it is it makes a duplicate copy of a list of S object records, including the S objects records themselves. Um, and this is only applicable to S objects, while this one is applicable to both S objects and primitive data types. Okay, so this is the summary of our list tutorial. So in the next lesson, we will discuss how to um, declare a list. So stick around. Hello guys, we will continue our list tutorial, and this time we will discuss list declarations and its variations. So yeah, without further ado, we'll start with the first one. So basically the first one is declare an empty list using its constructor. So this is the syntax. So you have your list here, the data type, your list name. Then you would invoke the keyword new, just like any other languages out there like Java or C, PHP, Python. And then you would declare the actual list with a parenthesis. So it's just, if you have a background in other languages, it's just pretty much the same. So, all right, let me just try to copy this and let's test it out. Okay, let me go here, do a refresh with the developer console. All right, let me just go to debug and paste the code. Hopefully I have adjusted the fonts right here so that you can guys see even on your mobile phones. Okay, so there you have it. So this one declares an empty number list. So execute, go to debug, and there's your list, but it's empty. Okay, so that is the first way of declaring a list. So basically, you just need to add in the list directly. So let's say decimal. Okay, I'm just copy this decimal number list dot add, and then the value of your element, and this should add it to the list. And then once you do another system debug, it should add it to that list. Okay, but we'll discuss this one later. It's one of the simple ones. And there, that's your first list right there. Okay, the second method is this one. So initializing a list using its constructor. So basically this is the syntax, okay? So the first one that I showed you earlier is just an empty list. This one, this is what you use instead of the parenthesis, you use the curly brace. But you can also declare an empty list with this one. if you don't like this first way or first deal. But let's just do an experiment. Okay, let me clean that one out. All right. So this is pretty understandable. So I'm declaring a list, string list named fruits, and I put the values in. So when I do a system debug, it's gonna show us the fruits, as you can see it right here. Okay. So you can also, if you don't want to use the other one, you can just simply delete this. It's the same basically. So if you declare something like this, it's the same. Example, you do it this way. So it's the same thing. So if you don't put any values here, it will just actually give you an empty list. That's simple. All right. So yeah, it's an empty list. All right. Next up is what else do I need to teach you guys? Okay, constructor all. Yeah, the add all, but we can actually demo that one later. But for now, I'm gonna show you this particular one. List string. So it's basically the first one, but this one copies another string. So let me just copy the first one, which is the fruits. Oh, it's already here, but let me just paste it, okay? And then what this one is basically, instead of you hard coding again this thing's here, you'll just put in another list, and then it should give you the output, the same output. So let's execute it. Debug only, and then there you see that they're both the same. All right, and then so this one is the add all. So I think let me just show you this demo. So basically this one and the add all method is pretty much the same. So excuse me. All right. So let me remove the comment. So basically I've created a list here, str1 with some animals inside it. This is an empty string, str2, and here's the add all method. So copy all. So basically this means that copy all the value of str1 and just place it in str2. So when we do an execute, go to debug, and you'll have the same values. So pretty much that's why this particular statement and this particular method is just the same. So it really depends on the use case. Like if it's easier for your code to be read this way, then you can, depending upon the use case, you can do this or you can do the add-all method. The point being is they are just the result is the same basically. This one, yeah, we already tried this. It's equal to the first one. And then lastly is the this one. Declare a null initialized list with set size using the array notation. So this one is kind of like I would say not used that much, but if you want to initialize 5 instances, like 5 lists that has already a null value for whatever use case, you can certainly do this notation. It is actually pretty similar to other languages. The the syntax. So let's just do a demo on this one. So it's pretty easy. Let's go here, here, and here, and then just do execute. So you'll see 5 null things there. So yeah, it's basically just initializing trees with 5 null values for whatever useful use case you might use this one. So you'll have that sort of tool at your arsenal, if you will. Okay. Next up, let's see. Okay, so this is just a variation of this one. Okay, so all right, let me just. It's still the same as this, but it instead of doing 5 like nulls, then it's doing like 3 of them. Okay, so you don't need to specify, I think, the number, but let's just try it. And then execute. There you go. What if we try to put in the actual number? Does it give us an error? Yep, it does give us an error. Line 1 comes an unexpected token. Um, Let me just do a little experiment here. Yeah. So just don't put any number here, so that it won't give you errors. But to be honest with you guys, I'd rather use this particular syntax right here. Either this one, this is the most common one, or this one. This one is actually less common, but I just want to show you that it's there just in case you encounter this particular type of um, variation. You will know that it's just a list basically, nothing fancy to it. So depending upon the programmer's preference, depending upon its use case. So it's really up to you guys to play around with it. Okay, so those are the what you call this, the array, not array, but in Apex it's called list. Okay, list declaration variations. All right, and the next step we will dissect and really dive in to the list methods and give you guys an example. All right, so yeah, just stick around and you can so that you can learn much more. All right, thanks guys. All right, guys. Thanks for being here again. So we're gonna be discussing list methods. All right, so the first one is we're gonna be discussing the add. So where you were able to see the example earlier, but I'm just gonna have to copy this and let's proceed. So the idea of this one is basically it's going to add a list, or rather an element to the list. So we already have this 2. We will add this one. We got ace of hearts, 2 of hearts, then it's gonna insert, or rather add 4 of hearts. So let's execute it. All right, so there you have it. It actually added at the end of the list the 4 of hearts. Okay, so the next one is what we call I call it insert. So basically, it will just insert the element to the list based on your index. All right, let's try this one. So as you can see, it's pretty obvious where I will insert it. So, and by the way, the array actually starts with 0. So this one is 0, 1, 2. So I'm gonna insert this one on the 2, so it'll become 3. You'll see. Okay, so let me just try to execute. All right, so we have ace of hearts, 2 of hearts, 3 of hearts, then 4 of hearts. So it was inserted in this spot. All right, so that's how you can actually use the um, in well, it's add, but I call it insert. If you add two more, or yeah, two arguments, the first one being the index. Okay. All right, let's move on. Next one is this, the I call it get. So basically, I'm gonna extract the actual value from a list based on the specific index. Okay, so let's go ahead and try that. So in this particular code, I'm gonna be getting the ace of hearts. Execute, debug only. There you have it, ace of hearts, which is the first one. Moving on. This time we will try set. So set, basically the set method basically is just an update. Okay. So for this code, we will update the ace of hearts to the king of hearts, because 0 in our example is the ace of hearts. Let me just try to clean this one out first. Go here. There you have your ace of hearts. I'm just gonna put the code here, then run it. Then click on debug only, and there you have it. So the ace of hearts becomes the king of hearts because we actually update it using the method set. All right. Okay, let's jump back here. Next one is what I call the find. So the method name is contain. So basically this code will say, does your list contains the ace of hearts? Then it will return a boolean depending upon the result, and it will just, you'll know that it's there or not. So let's just try this code. It's pretty easy to understand, I believe. Execute. And then debug only. So is ace available? Answer is false, because we replaced it earlier with a king of hearts. So it makes sense. All right, moving on. We have the index of. So this one is actually still a find method, but this one, instead of returning the if it's, if it's true or false, it actually gives you the actual index. So it says here, returns the index if found, returns -1 if not found. So currently we have 2 of hearts. If we just X this one out, there you have it. So this one should give us a true value, okay? Which is, it will return the index of that particular 2 of hearts, or particular element. So, all right, there's our code. Execute, then debug only. So 1. Why? Because this is 0, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3. Since, like any other languages, or any other, most languages, it starts with 0. So that's why 2 of hearts is actually 1. All right. Next, we will check size of. So basically, this is a no-brainer. It will just tell us the length of your list. So I'm just gonna stuck it in there, execute, debug only. So we have 4. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 elements. All right. Next up is sort. So in this example, I printed the before sort and the after sort, so that you'll see. So this is the actual method, simply called sort. So we're just gonna copy this one and go back here, paste it underneath. Execute. Go to debug only. So this is the unsorted. So we have the same thing, King of Hearts, 2, 3, and 4. Now, after the sort, it becomes 2, 3, 4, then King of Hearts. It is based on the actual characters of your list. All right. And then let's go down to this one. So this one will actually delete a specific list based on the index that you have given it. So this is before, and then delete the number or element 3, and then whatever was deleted is actually returned, of course, as a string, and then we just simply do a output them, like, so we know what are the ones that are deleted. So let's go here. All we need to do is paste this guy right here and then execute. All right, and then debug only. So it tells us this is the before deletion. Still have our King of Hearts right there. And then it returned what is deleted, which is the King of Hearts. And then after the remove process or method, the King of Hearts is removed. All right, so let's take a look at the code. So there's your code right there. All right, and then let's see here. Yeah, we still have a few more. So let's test out deletes. So deletes are rather clear. I name it delete so I can remember it. But this is clear. So basically it clears out everything. And then in conjunction with clear, we're going to be using this empty checker. All right. Basically it checks your list or array if it is true or false. So let's just copy this guys here, place it underneath. So there's your clear, there's your empty. So let's just execute to see the running values. So the cards now it's empty. Are they gone? Yes, they're gone. It's true. All right. Now the next one. So we're done with the common methods. We're going to be exploring the different way of accessing an apex list. So the alternate way of accessing lists by using old school array indexing. So I believe this is only applicable to list. So if you have a C Sharp, Java, PHP, even Python backgrounds, you can definitely relate to this particular um, style of accessing cards. So I think we can remove the. Let me just copy it and let me go here. Let's just delete this dude right here. Okay, so basically it's the same. We're just using the old school style, using the, bracket. So this one, it will access the first one. Oh, not the first one, rather the second one, since we're starting with 0. So this spade here. And this one updates the ace of spades to king of spades, and this is how you retrieve it. This is how you update it. So pretty easy by using this notation here, old school notation. All right, let's just run it and then show you the results. There you have it. Okay, now I believe we have shown you the basic things for our array, or rather apex list method. The next one is we're going to be discussing clone and deepClone, which is sort of a little more advanced than the other ones. All right, so stick around. Thanks. All right, guys, welcome back. So we're going to be discussing clone. for this one, this tutorial. So in list, the method clone, you can pretty much use it in primitives and then on S objects. The difference is that when you clone a primitive data type, it will just basically copy the values from one list to another. That simple. So yeah. So if you change the value of the first one, doesn't affect the second one. If you do it vice versa, change the second one, it won't affect the first one, right? In cloning primitive data types, it simply just gives you a copy to the new list. So let me show you the example here. So I'm just going to copy this guy, go to anonymous window, and paste this one. So let me drag this so we'll have more room. All right, this is your first list. So my wishes. So let's say money, cars, houses, diamonds, businesses. You want I want to be rich, okay? Then you wanted my wish as well, so you're gonna clone my wish. So it becomes your wishes. So we're gonna be displaying it, and then I change my wish, my first wish from money to guns for some reason, and then display it. So it won't affect the second list, which is your wishes. So let's try and execute that. Go to debug only. So there. So it actually changed, but it doesn't affect your list pretty much. So basically cloning primitive data types is just, a straightforward concept. All right. But when we try to clone an S object, it's a different story. Okay. So in a nutshell, basically, if you try to clone a S object, for example, like account, contact list, those are standard objects, or you've created a custom object, that's going to be a different story because once you clone this particular object, stuck it into your new list, whatever you do on your first list affects the second list. Whatever you do on your second list affects your first list. All right. So say, for example, on this code right here, you know what? I'm just gonna copy this one, and we're gonna discuss it in the other window here. Okay, let me just try to clean it up for you guys, and probably adjust the window. Okay, so all right, what we're going to do is, I know that we're discussing lists, but you know, there's no other way of explaining it. It's an overarching topic. So just to better grasp the concept, but don't be afraid with this one. We'll discuss it soon enough. I'm just gonna have to simplify it. So basically what it is that this will create a contact inside Apex, and it will reflect in the Salesforce context list. All right, before I execute this, let me show you. Um, Contacts, let me do recent. All right. I think I ran it earlier, so let me just try to clean it up first for you guys. Tom Horn. Okay. Let's just jump in here. All right. So let me explain this particular code. Um, Rather, let's just go to the dev console. Okay. So this one, if you from line 1 to here, line 5, it means that you've created a contact object. You've instantiated one, and you put in a first name, a last name, and an email. and then you insert it. Okay. In Apex, if you insert a um, a new record, it will automatically give you the ID. So I believe I discussed that one before, okay, with the other videos. And then after that, we're basically creating a list here with type contact just to simulate this one. And then we grab the value here, the instance of the first one, and put it in list one. So now this one contains this one. Now we will create another one, another list, basically the same data type, as you can see, named list2. And then the funny thing is we're going to be cloning list1 into list2, this statement here. So clone list1, stuck it into list2, and then we're going to be displaying it. So you'll see that they're the same. But the moment we've changed the first name here, it's going to be displaying on the list2 as well. But we only updated list1. Okay, so we will run this, and then Tom will appear here after we run it. So execute, go to here, and then refresh the contact. There you have it. There's Tom created on the fly. And then let's go back to the console and go to debug only. So let's go back to the code first. So here, they will still have Tom. Oops, I'm sorry. Let's just go here. I'm not sure why I can't move it, but anyhow. So the first one still has the first name as Tom, but the moment it actually changed the list one, it affects list two as well. All right. So that's the behavior of clone, as you can see there. So most programmers who has a background in Java, C, Python, I believe, and PHP will understand this one. They call it reference or referencing. Basically, behind the scenes, you're using the same memory location. That's why if you do something on the other one, you're just basically manipulating the same address underneath the memory. That's why it affects the other one. So they call that one call by or pass by reference in C. So that's it for clone. So just remember the difference. The if you clone primitives, it's just basic cloning. If you clone as objects, it's a different story. So it's being passed by reference. Okay. So all right, that's it. So the next topic would be deepClone, and we will discuss it next. All right, thanks. Welcome back, guys, and we'll continue our discussion. So we're going to be discussing deepClone method for list. Okay. For the deepClone method in list, you have parameters. Okay. So the first one is a Boolean, which is called preserve ID. So it's talking about the ID of Salesforce. Okay, let me just try to pull this one up. So let's go to the URL. Hopefully you can see it. So that is the ID that it's trying to preserve. All right. Because every record in Salesforce has an automatic ID. So preserve ID is a boolean. You can stuck there a true or false value. So preserve ID. The optional preserve ID argument, so it's optional, determines the IDs of the original objects that are preserved or cleared in the duplicates. If set to true, the IDs are copied to the cloned objects. The default is false, so if you don't specify, they won't copy it. They will preserve the original record. So that is the IDs are cleared. So by default, it won't mess around with the ID of the original object. So the cloned object will just don't have an ID. All right. Next is preserve only timestamps. Again, it's a boolean. So let's just read it. So the optional preserve only timestamps argument determines whether the read-only timestamp and the user ID fields are preserved or cleared in the duplicates. If set to true, the read-only field is created by, so these are the fields that it is talking about. Created by, created date, last modified by ID, and last modified date are copied to the clone objects, if it is true. Again, the default is false. That is, the values are cleared, meaning these fields right here are not copied to the cloned object. All right. Most of the time, you don't need to clone those stuff anyway if you want to preserve the original record. All right. So next is preserve auto number. So what is an auto number? So an auto number is a sort of counter. So let me show you what it is. Actually, the contact doesn't have one, but I made one just for this tutorial here. So it is actually a sequential number. So we'll say there con 00005. So if you create another record, it will be con 0006, so on and so forth. It's just a number that you could, like a serial number, if you will, a sequential serial number for this particular object, for this particular record. Okay, so think of it that way. All right, so again, it's the same thing. So if the object has an auto number, by default, it's going to preserve it because the default is false. But if you put there true, then that's a different story. It will actually copy the auto number to, or rather into the clone one, clone, object. Note, deepClone only works with list objects. It will not work with primitives. Okay, so just keep that one in mind. So what is the usage? So the usage is it copies list elements as objects, that is, and it is not reference, meaning if you change the value of the original list, it does not affect the other clone copy or vice versa. So remember the clone. So if you clone list 1, put it in list 2. If you change list 1, it's going to affect list 2. If you change list 2, it's going to affect list 1. That's clone. But deepClone, it's different. So when you clone a record, say for example, list 1 contains this record, and you clone it to list 2, you have now the same copy. So if you mess around with, list 1, list 2 is not affected. If you mess around with list 2, list 1 is not affected. So that's the difference between clone and deepClone. So clone, actually, they call it a shallow clone because you're just merely copying, but you're still talking with the same record. Whereas deepClone, you're actually creating a different record from the original record. Okay, so it depends upon your parameters, the way you put in, if you want to preserve the ID, preserve the read-only timestamps, or preserve the auto number. Okay, that is the difference. So let's go down to the example. So, all right, like I said, I created a field in the contact object called tag number, which is an auto number field for the sake of the demo. And our sample contact is, Andy Young. All right, so again, this is a combination of SOQL queries. So I'm just gonna simplify it again because it's an overarching topic. So what this means is do a query, grab the ID, the first name, last name, email, blah, 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 created by tag number from the object contact, or rather table, where the ID is equal to this ID, which is, I believe, the ID of Andy. Hopefully it didn't change. Let's double check. Yeah, it did not change, so it's the same deal. So basically, we are grabbing these particular fields from Mr. Andy Young in the contact, and then put it here on con1 as a list contact. All right. And then we created another contact, rather list here, and then clone con1, rather deepClone con1, and stuck it in con2. All right. And then we are going to be displaying it, and this will show the same deal, but we messed up the last name. We changed young to old, but it only affects con1, not con2. Actually, it's the other way around. It should be like this, because it shouldn't affect con2. All right, because what we changed is con1. And then since we did not put in some values here, it will preserve the ID, preserve read-only timestamps, and the auto number. But you can play around with it. You can put here true, true, and true, or whatever combinations you like there. You can just pause this video and, play around with it. Just replace the ID, by the way. You might have a different ID there. So let me just copy this guy right here. And then go to the console and just put it here. Probably we're going to adjust the window. All right, so hope that's readable. All right, let's just try to run it. Okay, so let's investigate. So con1 has these records right here. See those records on con1? Those are the things that we've specified here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, and then we said clone con1, or rather deepClone con1, preserving the ID, so do not copy the ID, preserving the read-only timestamp, so don't copy these ones, created by ID, created by date, last modified by ID, last modified date, and then preserve the auto numbers, so don't copy the tag number. So that's why if you come here, you'll only get Andy, the first name, which is Andy, last name Young, and then Andy's email. Now, the next statement is, all right, hey, get con1 last name and mess it up. Instead of young, make it into old, and then display the two. So con1 will have the last name is equal to old, as you can see right here. But con2 will still have young, as you can see. All right. So hope that demo, or rather this demo, is understandable. So yeah, you might want to pause this video and just play around with the code. It's I think it's best if you play around it with yourself so you could uh, understand it more deeper. Okay, but this is the example of, or rather, the difference between clone and then deepClone for list. All right. Okay, guys. So thank you so much for sticking around, guys. Please do share this video, like and subscribe to the Flash channel. All right. See you around, guys. Take care. Bye bye.